Exposed. 3 sinister hidden camera horror stories that reveal terror beyond your imagination. Lisa never thought paranoia would take over her life. But after losing her husband, she dove into a new obsession, convinced that hidden cameras would shield her and her teenage son, Josh, from the dangers lurking in the shadows. As a waitress working late shifts, the illusion of security became her only solace. Little did she know, the cameras would capture horrors that made her skin crawl, and the whispers of her dead husband would soon turn against her. It started innocently enough. The first few nights of surveillance brought only the mundane: Josh playing video games, the dog scratching at the door. But then, late one night, the footage revealed something else: a flicker of movement in the corner. Shadows creeping across the living room floor, distorting into shapes that were never there. The icy grip of dread wrapped around Lisa's heart as she watched a shadow morph into a whispering form, soft voices just out of reach, echoing her husband's name. The hairs on her neck stood up, and her breath came in ragged gasps. Just a trick of the light, she told herself. But Josh wasn't convinced. The next morning, he flinched when an innocuous sound echoed in the hallway. She knew something was wrong when he wouldn't meet her eyes, when his laughter turned into nervous chuckles that faded too quickly. He started asking questions. "Mom, are we safe here?" Anxiety clouded his usually easygoing demeanor. The neighborhood, once a warm embrace, felt cold and suspicious. Initially friendly neighbors began to morph into figures of suspicion. Mr. Henderson, their neighbor, with his warm smile and easygoing charm, started to send shivers down Lisa's spine. He lingered too long in conversation, eyes darting around as if sizing up her and Josh, as if hiding something dark. When Josh reported missing belongings, a wallet, a gaming console, Lisa's heart sank. Could it be Mr. Henderson? The shadows seemed to twist with the weight of her growing fears. The more they uncovered, the more Lisa felt the walls closing in. The local authorities brushed off her concerns as just the ramblings of a grieving widow. "It's nothing to worry about, ma'am." Their dismissive comments stung like daggers. They didn't see the fear creeping slowly into her life, didn't see the connection she made with local urban legends of sinister figures. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As rain lashed against the windows one stormy night, tension exploded. Lisa and Josh huddled in their living room, the only light coming from flickering candles. They were ready to confront him. There, standing on Mr. Henderson's porch, shadows danced as thunder rumbled like a warning. Voices raised, they accused him. He only smiled, that eerie grin tightening the air. Just as they thought they could outsmart him, another figure staggered out of the darkness behind him. A whisper came alive, sending icy terror coursing through Lisa's veins. Could they really be in danger? The looming figure stretched hungrily toward them, and in that moment, Lisa knew they were no longer watching the shadows. They were the prey. The truth behind their home, their supposed sanctuary, had turned into a trap that threatened to consume them whole. What kind of monster could lurk just beyond their front door, waiting for the moment to strike? The figure stepped closer, its shadow merging with the flickering candlelight, creating a monstrous silhouette that loomed over them. Lisa's heart raced. She could almost taste the fear in the air. Josh gripped her arm, his fingers trembling, and she resisted the urge to pull him behind her, but instinct urged her to shield him at all costs. "Who are you?" Lisa shouted, trying to sound commanding, but her voice quivered, betraying her fear. The figure slowly emerged from the darkness, revealing a woman, disheveled and gaunt, eyes wide with hollow madness. "Help me," she rasped, her voice chillingly soft yet laced with desperation. "He won't let me go." Each word was like a dagger, slicing through the heavy tension. Henderson remained in the shadows, observing silently, his grin wide and unsettling. Lisa took a step back. "Get away from us," she screamed, her breath hitching in her throat. "Please, you have to believe me." The woman lunged toward them, but before Lisa could react, Mr. Henderson surged forward, grabbing the woman by her arms. The sudden movement sent Josh stumbling back into an armchair, while Lisa felt her stomach twist with dread. "Enough of this," Henderson barked, his usual amiable demeanor completely gone. "You're not supposed to be here." The woman screamed, and it was a sound that seemed to echo from a dark pit of despair. "I'm trying to warn you. He is coming for your son." Panic unfurled within Lisa, tightening around her throat. Josh's face blanched, and she felt a surge of protectiveness kindle into explosive fury. "Get away from her." "Stop!" Henderson barked, but Lisa's fury directed her actions. She lunged at him, desperate to pull the woman from his grip. A fierce struggle erupted, and the flickering candlelight illuminated the jagged angles of Henderson's face, revealing something grotesque lurking beneath his smile. Suddenly, the shadow of the woman twisted, growing longer and darker, spreading across the yard like a malignant stain. "They don't see me," she whispered, panic filling her eyes. "You have to run. Run now." In that moment, Lisa felt the hollow air crackle with a terrifying energy. Realization hit. This wasn't just about hidden cameras and neighborhood paranoia. They were entangled in something far more sinister. With a final surge, Lisa broke free of Henderson's hold and grabbed Josh, pulling him toward the front door. "We need to go." But the door wouldn't budge. It felt as if something was keeping it shut against their will. The shadows around them writhed, the air growing thick with an unnameable terror. "Please don't leave me." The woman's wail reverberated, her voice a haunting plea that echoed inside Lisa's head. "You don't understand what is coming." As Josh's desperate tugging at the door became frantic, Lisa looked back. The woman's eyes were filled with a desperation that resonated with her own. Just then, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness, the terrifying echo of Henderson's laughter replaced by the soft, menacing whispers of the shadows. "Stay with me, Mom," Josh screamed, panic sparking his voice, but the mounting pressure of shadows brushing past felt suffocating. Something dark was lurking, gathering strength in the night. A deep-rooted terror gripped Lisa's heart. What if this was the beginning of a nightmare they might never wake from? She turned her eyes to the woman once more, searching for answers, yet all that was left was the silhouette of a tormented soul, fading into the darkness. The weight of dread settled heavily. An ancient dread that promised a greater confrontation was looming. But what awaited them on the other side of that door was beyond anything they could imagine. What had they awakened in the shadows? And were they truly ready for the horrors that would come crashing down upon them next? The silence smothered them, heavy and suffocating. Lisa's breath quickened, each inhalation sharp with a metallic tang of fear. She felt the shadows sway and pulse around them, as if alive, waiting for the moment to strike. Josh's grip tightened, his small fingers digging into her arm. "Mom, don't leave me," he croaked, the innocence in his voice almost breaking her. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to project calm even as dread clawed at her insides. With a fierce determination, she pushed against the door once more, but it didn't yield. It felt like a trap, as if it were a portal to a nightmare they were meant to remain locked inside. "Run!" The woman's voice echoed again, fading into the surrounding darkness. The shadows seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, filling the air with a chilling urgency. Henderson stood still, watching, a wicked smile stretching across his face. It was a smile that promised torment, yet he remained oddly passive, as if this chaos entertained him. "Why wouldn't he open?" Josh gasped, panic rising. The shadows thickened, and Lisa felt something brush against her ankle like cold bony fingers. She shivered, wanting desperately to look down, but her gaze was glued to the woman, a specter of despair ready to vanish completely. Henderson finally broke his silence, his voice low and taunting. "You really think you can escape this place? You have no idea." He stepped closer, and the very air around him twisted. The shadows seemed to bow in his presence. Lisa felt a surge of wild energy surge through her. "Get away from us!" she screamed, her voice echoing desperation. Yet, something deep inside told her that confronting Henderson would only plunge them deeper into darkness. "You're too late," Henderson crooned, delight dancing in his eyes. "Time is not on your side." Then he leaned closer to the woman, speaking softly, words that twisted like a serpent. "You shouldn't have revealed yourself. Now they see you." "Well, you can't keep us here," Lisa shouted defiantly. The resolve within her was oxygen to her panic, truth against the smothering despair. "We will get out." "Let her go," Josh shouted, his innocence somehow fueling Lisa's courage. The power of being a mother ignited something fierce in her. Just then, the ground beneath their feet shook, a seismic wave of terror threatening to swallow them whole. Henderson laughed, an echoing, cruel sound that pierced the air. "What do you think you're dealing with? This is merely a game. And the stakes?" "Your precious son." Lisa's heart dropped. She turned to Josh, who looked bewildered, fear plastered on his face. "We're going to be okay," she managed to whisper, but doubt crept into her voice. The door loomed behind her, a barrier holding back something she couldn't comprehend. Panic swelled inside her like a tidal wave. "Do you see it?" the woman shrieked, her voice suddenly clear, sharp as glass. "Look at the shadows." She was pointing frantically behind them, and Lisa felt her heart race again. The shadows were swirling, dark forms taking grotesque shapes, expanding and contracting like a living nightmare. Henderson shifted, his eyes narrowing, and for a brief moment, he seemed uncertain. "You shouldn't have listened to her," he hissed, and suddenly Lisa understood the shadows obeyed him, but feared the woman. With every ounce of strength within her, Lisa hurled herself against the door again. This time, she focused on love, the love for her son, the love for the woman crying for help. The door shuddered, a fracture appearing, light piercing through the cracks. "Do it!" the woman screamed. "Now!" And then, something in Lisa snapped. With a primal scream, she threw her shoulder against the splintering door, determined to shatter the darkness surrounding them. But as the door burst open, and fresh air flooded in, a piercing scream filled the night, sending shockwaves through her entire body. The shadows writhed angrily around her, as something escaped into the world, something dark and malevolent. Lisa knew without a doubt it was not just a fight for her and Josh anymore. Now they had unleashed something uncontrollable. What did we just free? She wondered, her breath catching, knowing it was only the beginning of their haunted journey. A chilling silence enveloped them, broken only by Henderson's maniacal laughter that echoed around them like a death knell. What had they just awakened? What awaited them in the depths of the night? The shadows pulsated around them, a living entity driven mad with hunger. Lisa felt Josh trembling beside her, his small frame pressed against her leg, grounding her into a moment of fierce clarity. They had opened the door, but what lay beyond was not freedom. It was the abyss. "Stay close," she hissed, but her voice felt swallowed by the darkness. Where was the woman? She could barely see anything, yet she felt it, a malignancy in the air, thick and cold. Henderson's laughter cut through like shattered glass. "You think you can just step into the light?" he taunted, his eyes glimmering like snuffed-out stars. "You have no idea what you've unleashed, a monster," Josh whispered, his eyes wide, terrified. It was as if he could sense the evil clawing to materialize from the depths they had unlatched. From the churning darkness, a whisper echoed low, guttural. "Help me, help me," it seemed to cry, a sound that sent skittering chills down Lisa's spine. It beckoned, promising relief, but she recognized the sinister allure. "Mom? What is that?" Josh asked, voice shaking, the innocence still present but gradually twisted by growing horror. Lisa's heart raced. "It's nothing, Josh. Just stay with me." She forced herself to keep her eyes forward, desperate to repress the deep-rooted fear rising within. They had to move, but every instinct screamed for them to remain still, to not provoke whatever nightmare was creeping closer. "Henderson, what did you do?" she demanded, anger bubbling under the surface. "You think this is your game?" He chuckled softly, a sound that felt like ice against her skin. "Oh, my dear, it's not just my game. You've entered a realm of desperation, a domain where lost souls wander, and you've unleashed the darkest one of all." Suddenly, the air shifted, the whispers morphing into growls, a cacophony of angry voices arguing, shrieking, demanding vengeance. Fools, fools trapped must feed the words emboldened the shadows, which began to swirl violently around them, tendrils of darkness reaching as if to snatch them away. "Run!" Lisa finally shouted, turning to snatch Josh's hand. But before they could escape, a shape materialized in the swirling void. A figure emerged, a grotesque caricature, its eyes voids of hatred, its body a mass of shifting shadows. "Do you want to play?" it hissed, its voice reverberating with a chilling familiarity. Lisa's heart plummeted. This thing felt intimately connected to the despair that had inhabited this place. Before she could respond, it lunged at them, its elongated arm reaching out. Lisa instinctively shielded Josh, but the force was unstoppable. The figure was like a tornado of shadows, mixing terror with an overwhelming sense of loss. In its eyes, she saw glimpses of every moment she'd ever feared losing. Terror gripped her. "Not my son!" she screamed, yanking Josh away just barely, but the shadows closed in again, squeezing like a vice. "Mom!" Josh wailed, struggling against the weight of the darkness crawling over his small body. With desperation clawing at her throat, Lisa recalled the woman's fading voice from before. Was there a way to fight back? "You don't own us," she cried out, focusing all her thoughts on the bond with her son, the light in her heart. The darkness shuddered momentarily, faltering in its chaotic dance. "Remember me," the figure's voice echoed, and with that, it lunged once more. But it didn't complete its advance flickering, it flickered like a candle threatening to burn out. And just as it seemed to flicker into nothingness, a sudden flash of light burst behind them, illuminating the room, unveiling the woman again, her face a mask of determination. "Now! Break free!" she shouted, the shadows battling her very presence. Lisa's heart raced with hope against the fear. "Hold on!" she yelled to Josh, and with one final push against the suffocating darkness, they dove toward the light. But as they collided with the rays of hope, she felt something tugging at her soul, a deep, primal pull back into the darkness, a fear that the shadows weren't done with them yet. "What if it's not over?" she thought, her mind racing with dread. In that moment of blinding light, everything went dark, leaving behind only haunting echoes and silence. What had they stepped into? What awaited them beyond the light? In the suffocating silence, Lisa felt the weight of the darkness pressing against her, a blanket of despair that threatened to suffocate all hope. She blinked, trying to adjust to the absence of light, her heartbeat pounding in her ears like a war drum. Where was Josh? "Josh!" she called, panic slicing through her bravado. A hint of a response reached her, small and whimpering. "I'm here, Mom." His voice trembled, lost in the eerie void. "Stay close," she replied, trying to sound strong, but uncertainty wormed its way into her tone. As she turned, trying to navigate the oppressive blackness, she felt her pulse race. The shadows seemed to shift, curling around her like serpents eager to strike. From the depths of the darkness, that voice slithered back, dense and whispering. Help me, help me, it wrapped around her mind, a sinister melody that promised respite. Don't listen, she shouted, shaking her head furiously, fighting against the seductive pull. The shadows morphed, flickering with the memories of lost souls, their despair palpable. A sudden chill wrapped around her spine. The unseen eyes were watching, waiting. With a deep breath, she moved forward, feeling her way along the cold, irregular walls. She was aware of Josh, still close, his breath hitching behind her. She couldn't allow herself to focus on the noise around them, the cries and whispers dancing on the edge of her consciousness. She had to believe in the light, but that belief grew faint as she stumbled upon a wet, sticky surface. An icy finger of dread traced down her back. "What is this?" she whispered, the reality of their situation closing in. "Mom." "It feels wrong," Josh whimpered, trembling beside her. She wanted to reassure him, but had no words. Instead, she pressed forward, desperate to escape the clutches of the darkness. A sudden, sharp sound made them both freeze, a low growl, rumbling like thunder in the gloom. "Run!" Lisa yelled, grabbing Josh's hand instinctively. They bolted forward, the shadows closing in, alive and ravenous. She felt something clawing at her, tugging at her very essence. The growl morphed into a screech, high-pitched and furious. It was the anguished cry of lost souls, all echoing in a terrible chorus. She could feel the air thinning, panic rising in her chest. "Mom! It's too much!" Josh cried, his voice drowning in despair. She stopped abruptly. "Listen," she said, holding on to Josh with fierce determination. "We have to find the woman. She can help us." The words felt weak against the relentless tide of darkness pressing in. "Do you hear that?" Josh whispered, his eyes wide, reflecting a glimmer of fear. And then, there it was, a distant flicker of light, shimmering through the black like a lighthouse cutting through a storm. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat of hope amid despair. "Mom, hurry!" Josh pulled at her hand, tugging her toward the promise of light. But just as they began to move, the shadows recoiled, forming a wall that blocked their path. The malevolent whispers crescendoed, drowning their resolve. "Leave now. You don't belong here." With every blink, Lisa felt the pressure increase, the darkness breathing down her neck. "We will not be your prey," she shouted fiercely, gratitude swelling for Josh beside her. "Mom, I'm scared," he whimpered as the shadows coiled tighter, squeezing hope away, but Lisa wouldn't surrender. "We are together. We will fight," she declared defiantly, surging forward, her body slamming against the barrier of darkness. A blinding flash erupted, illuminating the void. Lisa shielded her eyes, and the light spread, splintering the shadows into shards of nothingness. "Run!" The woman's voice echoed through the brilliance, reverberating in Lisa's heart. They dashed toward the brightness, but just as they reached its edges, a chilling figure loomed before them, a silhouette silhouetted against the light, dark power pooling at its feet. "What a lovely reunion," it crooned, a voice like oil on water, seducing and slicing through their resolve. Terror surged through Lisa's veins. They weren't safe yet. What had they awakened? What was the cost of their fleeing attempt? The thought twisted in her gut as darkness whispered, "They will never escape." The figure stepped closer, a malevolent glint in its eyes. In that moment, Lisa realized the truth: they were still very much in its game. What were they truly up against, and how would they break free from the grip of horror surrounding them? Lisa's heart pounded furiously, each beat echoing in the expanse of darkness. The figure before them grinned, its teeth sharp and gleaming, as if hungry for their fear. She held Josh's hand tighter, feeling his trembling increase. "Mom, I don't want to be here," Josh whimpered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Neither do I," she breathed, her throat dry and tight. The light flickered, blinding and inconsistent, painting the figure in harsh contrast. "But we have to fight. We've come this far." The figure tilted its head, amusement dancing in its predatory gaze. "So brave, yet so foolish. You think you can escape? You're already part of this world forever." Panic clawed at Lisa's insides. "No! We're leaving!" she shouted defiantly, even as doubt gnawed at her resolve. With a surge of desperate energy, she pulled Josh toward the fading light. The shadows roared their disapproval, swirling violently around them like a tempest of despair. The smooth ground beneath them morphed into a treacherous slide, making every step a struggle. The air grew thick, the scent of decay invading her senses. They stumbled, both nearly losing their footing. A scream clawed at the edge of Lisa's throat as she glanced back at the figure still watching, still smiling. "Do you see it now?" it taunted, its voice a sinister echo. "The darkness is a part of you, just as you are a part of it. You can fight, but it only feeds you lies." "Shut up," Lisa screamed, feeling the pressure against her skull, an unbearable weight that threatened to crush her. "Mom!" Josh tugged at her. "What if it's right? What if we don't belong up there?" The shadows twitched, whispering sweetly in his ear. "Stay with us, little one. Join the lost. You will be safe here." "No." Lisa's voice caught through the swirl of seduction. "You are not safe here, Josh. We won't leave without each other." She pulled him close, desperately searching for any glimmer of reality. The flicker of light dimmed again, pulsing like a dying star. Just as Lisa felt hope slip between her fingers, she heard a cry, a soft, distant wail, different from the taunts lurking around them. It came from beyond the veil of darkness. "Help me!" the voice begged, familiar. "Mom!" Josh felt her grip tightening. "Wait!" she called out, hesitating. "What if that is the woman?" "Are you crazy?" Josh cried, fear urging him to flee. "We can't trust anyone here." The voice grew louder, resonating through layers of despair. "Please! You must help me. There's a way out." Without thinking, Lisa turned slightly, hesitating at the precipice of a decision. Stay and try to fend off the darkness, or risk everything for a chance at liberation. "We can't ignore it," she whispered, more to herself than to him. She looked back at the figure, which now loomed larger, stepping closer yet halting abruptly, eyes narrowing as if sensing their distraction. "It's all a trick," it hissed, the ground vibrating with its rage. "Josh, what do we do?" Lisa's voice trembled as she faced the encroaching chaos. "I don't know, but we can't trust anything here." The pressure mounted, the shadows reached out, gripping her ankles like icy chains. "You're too late," it rasped, "your souls are already mine." The wailing continued to echo, desperate and inviting, but it was repeatedly drowned out by the menacing growls brewing within the dark. With every ounce of courage, Lisa shouted, "Listen! We have to go." She surged toward the brightness, every step a battle against the dark tide. But suddenly, the voice became frantic. "No! You can't leave! Don't abandon me!" Screams erupted from the shadows, the anger and despair of countless souls creating a cacophony. Lisa felt herself pulled backward, the weight of their sorrow threatening to crush her spirit. "Mom, please!" Josh cried, his little fingers slipping from her grip. Heart racing, Lisa lunged forward, the flickering light almost within reach. Just as darkness threatened to swallow them whole, she grasped Josh's fingers once more, refusing to let go. "Let us go!" she shouted as the shadows lost their grip, recoiling against the light. But as they charged toward the brightness, a terrifying realization hit her, a mirror image of their own faces materialized within the light. Hollow and soulless, they called out in unison. "We are you, you are us." Lisa froze, panic rushing through her veins. Who were they? Were they truly ready to escape? Or were they simply trading dark prisons? As they reached the edge, the flicker finally flared, a blaze swallowing the despair, but behind it, shadows shifted, breathing deep once more, and Lisa felt one final haunting echo. Don't leave me." Bracing for the unknown, Lisa's heart sank. What awaited them on the other side? The brightness enveloped them, but it felt wrong, like an electric shock coursing through her veins. The images of their hollow faces swirled in her mind, taunting her. "We're not leaving," Lisa gasped, still clutching Josh, but doubt seeped in, a venomous fog swirling around their thoughts. They burst through the light and landed hard on cracked, cold tiles. Blinking, Lisa glanced around, her heart hammering. The room was dim, walls shadowy and stained with age, yet a flickering fluorescent bulb cast eerie shapes. Panic enveloped her like a shroud. "Where are we?" she breathed, scanning for an exit. "Mom, are we safe?" Josh's voice trembled beside her, eyes wide as saucers, searching for something solid in a world grown terrifyingly unfamiliar. Suddenly, the door creaked open, dragging across the floor like a whine of warning. Lisa stiffened as a silhouette emerged, draped in shadows. It was a woman, disheveled and wild-eyed, a streak of dirt across her smeared cheek. "Help me," the woman croaked, but there was a familiar strain to her voice. It sliced through the air like shattered glass. "They're coming for you." Lisa froze, memories clawing at her. This was the woman from before, the one who had pleaded for help. "You," she began, her throat dry. "What do you mean?" "They know you're here," the woman hissed, backing away. "They'll take you. You have to run." "Run?" Josh echoed, fear bubbling up in him. "What is happening?" A low growl reverberated through the room, an unsettling presence crawling into every crevice. Shadows poured under the door, writhing like snakes seeking warmth. Lisa felt her breath hitch in her throat. "What are they?" she whispered, eyes darting to the door. "They're hungry," the woman screamed, panic spilling over. And they've found a new plaything in a flash. Lisa's instincts kicked in. "We have to move. Now!" She grabbed Josh's hand, urgency propelling her forward. As they turned towards the other side of the room, the shadows slithered closer, flicking out like tongues of fire, searching. The woman shrieked, stepping back into the encroaching darkness. "No! Please! Help me!" Lisa felt her heart snapping at the horrifying sight. Was this her fate too? She glanced back, torn between horror and the instinct to save. "Don't look, Mom." Josh pulled at her arm, his own terror a tangible force. "We can't help her. We have to go." The growling grew louder, drowning out the woman's cries, as the shadows frothed and leapt toward her. "No!" Lisa could not let the darkness swallow them again. Desperation fueled her, and she pressed on, pulling Josh toward a heavy metal door just ahead. When they reached the door, Lisa shoved it open, adrenaline coursing through her. They stumbled into another corridor, the air thick with an oppressive scent. She could hear the echoing wails. Was it the woman left behind? Or something worse? "Mom, I'm scared," Josh whined, his voice a fragile thread amidst the cacophony behind them. "Stay close," Lisa ordered, breathing hard as the corridor twisted into darkness. "Just a little further. We can make it." But as they moved deeper, shadows thrust themselves at the walls. Lisa felt the pulse of malevolence, the weight of sinister eyes boring into their backs. She risked a glance back, dread pooling at the base of her spine. What if they weren't alone? What if the darkness had followed them? "I can't do this," Josh whimpered, voice trembling. "I want to go home." "Me too," Lisa whispered, clutching his hand tighter. "But we're going to find a way." But just as she spoke, a whisper wrapped around them, frigid and taut. You will never escape. The shadows swelled, coiling like vipers, creeping ever closer. Lisa's breath quickened. Was the darkness pursuing them, or had they only traded one prison for another? The flickers in the distance, an unsettling hesitation, drew her forward yet pulled her back. "Let us keep moving," she urged, fear and determination mingling. They sprinted down the corridor, but a horrifying thought crossed her mind. What if the other side wasn't freedom, but the beginning of the end? A sinister laugh echoed in the corridor, chilling her to the bone. The shadows danced, winding together in a grotesque celebration of despair, and as they raced toward the unknown, Lisa felt that sting of darkness at her heels, a sinister promise that they would never really be free. What awaited them in the depths of this twisted realm? The corridor stretched endlessly, each step echoing like a taunt. Shadows flickered and twisted, a living entity that seemed to breathe alongside them. Lisa tightened her grip on Josh, moving with frantic resolve. Every instinct screamed at her to keep pushing forward, but the darkness churned behind them, growing thicker, more oppressive. "Mom, please!" Josh whimpered, his voice barely above a whisper. She could hear it cracking under the weight of fear. "I don't want to be here. I want to go home." "Me too, baby, me too," she choked out, fighting the bile rising in her throat. Images of the woman filled her mind, her despair, her pleas. But Lisa couldn't afford to wallow. They had to escape, but the hallways twisted unexpectedly, branching out into various passages, each one cloaked in obscurity. Panic threatened to engulf them. "Which way?" she said, hesitating just a second too long. A low growl reverberated again, more menacing this time. It was close, far too close. Lisa's heart raced as vibrant dread rushed through her veins. "This way," she shouted, darting right. Not even knowing what lay ahead, they plunged into what felt like a smaller room, the air suddenly colder, sharper. Lisa looked for doors or windows, her mind racing. "We can't stay here, Josh." She saw just a glimpse of light filtering through an opaque window at the far end, like a potential salvation. "There," she pointed, pulling Josh toward it. But even as they moved, a pungent odor filled the space, a smell of decay, of something long gone. A chill crept over her skin, but even more horrifying was the sight that greeted them. The room was filled with scattered remnants of lives forgotten, torn photographs clinging to walls, furniture draped in dust like a funeral shroud, and a single rocking chair that creaked ominously without company. Her heart sank at the unsettling feeling that it might still be occupied. "Mom!" Josh tugged at her hand, eyes wide with an unsuspected dread. "Look," she turned, heart sinking as she followed his gaze to a figure slumped against the wall, an ashen face partially obscured by hair. This wasn't just any figure, it was someone familiar. "Is that?" Lisa's breath hitched. The woman from the corridor, the one they had left behind, sat frozen in fear, eyes glassy as she stared into nothing. And then, with a sudden jerk, her head snapped up, locking eyes with Lisa. There was no hope there, just an unfathomable terror. With trembling fingers, the woman cracked her mouth open, and what came out next chills Lisa to her core. "Help me!" The shadows around the woman writhed and teased, as if sensing her suffering, the gnashing growl unnervingly loud, vibrating through the walls. They'd led them here, lured them like moths to a flame. "Mom! We have to go!" Josh screamed, pulling with all his strength, but Lisa could feel the weight of that gaze, the sense of entrapment that burrowed deep in her chest. "Leave!" The woman's voice was desperate now, rising to an otherworldly shriek. "They'll come for you next." Without thinking, Lisa turned away, dragging Josh back toward the doorway, but the shadows lurched forward, closing in, flinging her to the floor. Darkness swirled around them, slamming against her like a fevered storm. "No!" she cried out, reaching for Josh as she lost grip of his hand. Josh! Panic surged through her as she locked eyes with her son, who stared back, frozen. The shadows crept closer, intertwining with the echoes of that ghastly laugh that mocked them. Mom! His voice rose above the chaos, piercing through the suffocating darkness that threatened to smother them both. And for a moment, just a moment, time stood still. The lights overhead buzzed angrily, flickering with each sinister pulse of the advancing night. In her heart, Lisa knew they had to fight through. They had to survive. I won't let them take you, she screamed, pushing herself up against the surge of dark energy. But the question rang clear against the void. What had she unleashed by escaping into this realm? And as they struggled, the darkness shifted, revealing an opening, a brief gateway of light. But could they trust it? Or was this just another trap for the unwitting? Lisa took a breath, heart pounding, and made her decision. Run! As they lunged for the light, she could hear the sinister laughter following them, echoing down the corridor with an insatiable hunger. It taunted, it beckoned, as they rushed blindly into the unknown. Would they find freedom, or would they be consumed? The shadows writhed at their heels, and Lisa felt the weight of impending darkness closing in around her, ready to strike. The exit grew closer, but so did the reckoning. What awaited them on the other side? The light was blinding, stark and invasive, yet Lisa pushed onward, pulling Josh through the blizzard of shards and fragments that the darkness had cast off. Her heart raced steeply, each beat a drumroll against the terror behind them. The shadows howled in frustration, lashing out as they neared the glimmer of escape. But did it truly illuminate a way out, or would it lead them deeper into despair? Please, hurry! Josh's voice trembled, panic blending with desperation. We're almost there. She could feel a spark of hope igniting but couldn't shake the horror behind her. They didn't understand this. The walls pushed back, grazing against them as they broke free, catching gasps of night air that tasted of rust and dread. Lisa could scarcely comprehend where they had landed. They found themselves in an expansive hall, echoing with whispers that danced eerily off the cold stone walls. An expansive chandelier hung above its cracked glass, dripping shadows that lingered like venomous vipers. Mom? Josh's small voice quivered. Where are we? She shushed him, heart thundering. It felt like they'd escaped one nightmare only to step into another. The air was thick and heavy, and fear washed over her, turning her limbs rigid. As she glanced around, she noticed the walls were covered in strange carvings, twisted figures coiling around one another, faces locked in eternal agony. Lisa's throat constricted. Each image resembled the desperate woman, her soul caught in this waking graveyard. A faint noise caught her attention, a breeze, soft and calloused, beckoning her closer. It emanated from a pair of doors at the far end, framed with dark wood and iron handles that looked as if they hadn't been touched for ages. Mom, don't! Josh begged, pulling at her sleeve. We shouldn't go. We should go back. No, we can't go back. She gripped his shoulder, her eyes pleading. We have to keep moving, Josh. Please, he swallowed, eyes wide and pleading like a lost child. What if it's just like last time? That thought gripped her. What if they had escaped that room only to find themselves decoratively ensnared in another? But how could Lisa make him understand? Every instinct told her to move forward, to face the danger head-on. She pushed the doors open. The darkness inside was palpable, a swallowing void that seemed to snicker at their intrusion. Lisa hesitated, the hairs on the back of her neck rising as she stepped across the threshold, Josh bundled tightly against her side. The air was cold, and silence enveloped them, deeper than any tunnel they had traversed. Suddenly, a chilling sound pierced the silence, a moan, heavy and sorrowful, weaving through the emptiness. Mom? What was that? Josh squeaked, eyes darting to where the sound had originated. Lisa whispered again, scanning the room. It was massive, lined with elaborate drapes, each thread thick with dust accumulated over the years. "Help me." The voice was barely above a whisper, yet it shattered the silence like glass. It was hauntingly familiar. "Mom." Josh's breath hitched, pulling her closer. "I want to go home." "Stay close." She felt the icy grip of dread squeeze her heart. The shadows stirred, shifting in the corners of her vision, and reality began to blur. "Help me." Lisa turned sharply, and there it was again, closer this time, echoing off the ornate walls. It was a blend of despair and rage, a serene abyss that promised doom. She stepped forward almost instinctively. "Wait." Josh's voice quivered. She felt his grip slacken, just a fraction. In that fraction, Lisa sensed the shadows closing in, eager to consume their light. And then came the laughter, not the taunting kind from earlier, but something deeper, more profound. It clawed at her sanity, dragging it through a black pit of hopelessness. "Mom, please." Lisa's heart plummeted. She had to protect her son. Summoning every ounce of bravery she had left, she turned again toward the door, her conviction surging through her veins. But it solidified into a wall of shadows as she reached for it, the malicious energy seeping into her skin, pinning her in place. "Josh!" she screamed, already feeling the trails of darkness wrap around her, sucking out her will to fight. The room had shifted, pulsating with thick terror, as a figure emerged from deep within the shadows. Its face twisted with an expression that promised to be the end. Lisa heard Josh's terrified gasp. "Stop!" she shouted, her strength waning. What was happening? And what loomed ahead with the encroaching entity? As her vision narrowed, she knew they faced a similar fate to the woman who had begged them to run. Lisa's resolve wavered, clutching onto her son as the ground trembled beneath them. Wherever they were led next, darkness danced hungrily in anticipation. But could they escape the shadows that hungered for their very souls, or would they, too, become mere reflections within this cursed labyrinth? The shadows twisted and convulsed, reaching toward Lisa and Josh with desperate hands. The room pulsed with an unearthly beat, as if the very walls were alive with malevolence. Panic surged through Lisa, igniting a wildfire of frantic energy in her chest. She couldn't let this be the end for them, not when they had fought so hard just to break free. "Josh, we have to move," she shouted, pulling him close as she took a deep breath, summoning the remnants of her courage. She whispered a silent prayer, pushing against the suffocating darkness. With an adrenaline-fueled shove, she lunged toward the encroaching mass, eyes burning with the fire of a mother's protective rage. She felt the shadows claw at her, icy tendrils wrapping around her ankles, but she continued. "We are not afraid, and we will not give in." The words rang out louder, breaking through the suffocating fog of despair that threatened to envelop them both. Suddenly, the wall shifted, and from the depth of the darkness emerged the face of the woman, distorted, her features twisted in anguish. "You cannot save him," she choked, eyes wild with terror and need. "You must run." Just then, Lisa glimpsed a flickering light through a crack in the far wall, as if a portal waited to consume them. "The light! We can reach it!" she yelled, heart pounding as hope shimmered like a long-lost friend. As if sensing the urgency, the shadows surged back, trying to reclaim what was theirs. The ground trembled beneath them, and Lisa hoisted Josh into her arms, the weight of both love and resolve fueling her strength. They dashed toward the light, the shadows howling in dismay, clashing against the unyielding spark of hope that drew them relentlessly forward. "Stay with me, Josh," she cried, her voice raw with emotion, but vibrant and fierce. The echo of the dark passageway thundered behind them, filled with screams of bygone souls. The memories of loss and horror clawed at Lisa's mind, but she tightened her grip on her son, letting the warmth of his body anchor her sanity. In the moments that followed, the shimmering light grew larger, pulsating like a heartbeat inviting them to safety. But the shadows laughed, their taunt layered with an insidious confidence. You can never escape. With every ounce of strength, Lisa pushed forward, concentrating on the bond with Josh, a tether more powerful than any darkness could sever. We will escape together, she yelled, her voice a rallying cry against the whispers in the wind, the taunts of despair. As they neared the light, it exploded into brilliance, illuminating their path. Shards of darkness flailed and recoiled, screeching. Lisa's heart swelled as she felt the glowing warmth replace the chill that had gripped her. They surged through the light, leaving the shadows behind. The roar of agony faded as they stepped into a purifying glow. Lisa shielded her eyes, but when she opened them, she found herself and Josh kneeling on the cool, verdant grass outside their home. The sky was clear, the sun casting a warm, golden hue over everything. Josh blinked, lifting his head, eyes wide and incredulous. "Mom? Are we okay?" Tears flowed down Lisa's cheeks as she pulled him into a tight embrace. "We made it, Josh. We're safe." But even as hope swelled in her chest, Lisa knew the shadows were not completely banished. They whispered still, lurking at the fringes of her mind, not entirely defeated. She had survived, yes, but she could never forget what lurked at the edge of the night. "Say it with me, Josh," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tremor that rippled through her. "We're safe, and we'll always watch for the shadows. Together." Josh nodded, his little frame snug against hers, and they shared a moment of profound understanding, an unbreakable bond rooted in shared survival. In the following days, Lisa planted flowers around the yard, bright and vibrant, signs of new life and resilience. In every bloom, she found strength. Mr. Henderson moved away, and the whispers of urban legend faded too, as they welcomed a new beginning wrapped in the warm sunlight. There. Laughter rang through the houses again. They had reclaimed their sanctuary, but sometimes, late at night, when shadows stretched in the corners of the darkened rooms, she would glance at the window half expecting to see the tendrils of darkness slithering by, but instead, she held Josh close, promising to him and to herself that they would face the night together. As the final sunlight dipped below the horizon, Lisa knew they had emerged victorious, if only for today. She might be chased by shadows, but the light always beckoned them home, and that was enough. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you at the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, because your support truly matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your thoughts could spark the next great story. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finish. Your support shapes this journey, and only true fans understand the importance of these actions.